The great battle was raging in the dark, cold space. The Empire's huge fleet, made up of thousands of shining warships, was attacking the rebel forces. The stars lit up with laser fire and explosions. The noise of war filled the silent void as ships moved fast, trying to outsmart each other. The Empire believed they would win easily. Their ships were strong, their weapons powerful, and their pilots skilled. They had never faced an enemy like this before. Suddenly, everything stopped. No laser fired, no ship moved. It was as if time itself had frozen. The Empire's fleet was caught in a strange silence. The commanders stared in shock at their control panels. Alarms rang out, but the ships did not respond. The pilots tried to move their ships, but their controls were dead. The whole fleet was frozen in space, like statues in a cosmic museum. No one understood what was happening. From the quiet darkness came a new shape. It was a ship unlike any other. It glowed with a strange blue light and moved slowly but surely toward the Empire's fleet. The Empire's spies and sensors tried to scan it, but the readings were strange and confusing. Some said it looked old, like a ship from Earth's past. Others thought it was a myth, a story told by the ancient space travelers. But now it was real, floating in the middle of the battle. The Empire's commanders gathered in the bridge of their biggest ship. They watched the strange warship through their screens. It had a shape like a human ship they had seen only in history books and legends. The ship was small compared to their giant war machines, but there was something powerful about it. It did not rush or panic. It moved calmly and with purpose. Suddenly, a voice came through the Empire's communication system. It was clear and calm, but filled with confidence. "This is the human warship Endurance. We have returned to protect the galaxy from your tyranny." The commanders looked at each other in disbelief. They had not heard a human voice in many years. Humans were believed to be weak and nearly extinct. Yet here was a human ship, and it was stopping their entire fleet. The strange ship opened a small window on its hull, showing a hologram of a soldier. He wore old-fashioned armor, but his eyes were sharp and full of strength. The soldier spoke about humanity's history, how humans survived wars, plagues, and nearly destroyed their own world. They learned from pain and became stronger. They promised to fight for freedom and justice. Then, without warning, the human ship fired a strange beam at the Empire's main weapon systems. The beam was quiet but deadly. The Empire's huge cannons and missile launchers stopped working. The entire fleet was helpless, frozen in space with no way to defend themselves. Panic spread through the Empire's ships. The commanders shouted orders, but no one could move. The rebel forces, who had been hiding behind asteroids, watched the scene in shock and hope. They whispered among themselves, "Is this real? Is that a human warship? Have humans come back?" The rebels had heard stories of humanity's strength and courage. Now maybe they had a chance to fight back. The frozen battle was not just a moment in space. It was a turning point. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this before. The galaxy held its breath. The war was about to change forever. The strange blue warship floated calmly among the frozen giants, shining like a beacon of hope. Deep inside the Empire's command center, the generals were confused and afraid. They had no answers. Their technology was failing, their weapons silent. How could a single ship stop an entire fleet? They ordered spies to find out more about this human ship and its crew. But the spies had trouble approaching. The human ship seemed protected by unknown forces, like an invisible shield. The story of the frozen battle spread quickly across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to know about the human warship that stopped the Empire. Some called it a miracle. Others said it was a warning. No one was sure what would happen next, but one thing was clear: the Empire's time of control was ending. In the silent space, the human warship moved slowly, watching the frozen Empire fleet. Its crew prepared for the next step. The battle was far from over, but the humans had already made their mark. The galaxy was waking up to a new power, one that many thought was gone forever. The frozen battle was the start of a new story, a story of hope, courage, and the return of humanity's strength. The Empire would never forget this day, when time stopped and the human warship appeared like a ghost from the past, ready to change the future forever. The strange human warship floated silently among the frozen giants of the Empire's fleet. No one dared to move or fire. The silence in space was heavy, filled with fear and wonder. The Empire's commanders stared at their screens, trying to understand what was happening. How could one small ship stop thousands of their war machines? It seemed impossible. The human ship began to glow brighter, as soft blue light spread from its hull, shining like a star in the dark void. Then, suddenly, a window opened on the side of the ship. From it, a clear hologram appeared. It showed a man dressed in old, simple armor, but his eyes were strong and full of calm confidence. He looked directly at the Empire's commanders and spoke in perfect Basic, the common language of the galaxy. "I am Captain Rourke of the Warship Endurance," the man said. "Humanity has returned to protect the weak and to end your cruel rule." His voice was calm, but powerful. It filled every ship in the frozen fleet. The Empire's leaders could not ignore him. The hologram showed images of Earth, the ancient home of humans. They saw cities rising and falling, people fighting wars and rebuilding. The captain spoke of humanity's history, how they survived terrible disasters and learned to fight back. He said humans were once thought weak and scattered, but they had grown strong and united. Now they came to the stars with new hope and great power. The Empire's spies tried to learn more about this human warship, but their sensors failed. The ship seemed to be covered by an energy field that blocked all scans. The human ship was quiet, moving slowly but always watching. It had technology the Empire had never seen before, technology that seemed to come from a time long lost. Then the human warship fired again. This time, it released small drones into space. The drones flew silently toward the Empire's main weapons platforms. As they touched the weapons, they released pulses of energy that shut down the powerful cannons and missile launchers. The weapons stopped working, and the Empire's fleet was left defenseless. Inside the human ship, the crew worked quickly and calmly. Captain Rourke gave orders in a steady voice. "We will free the galaxy from their grip," he said. The crew members nodded, ready for the fight ahead. They knew the Empire would not give up easily, but they believed in their mission. The rebels who had been hiding nearby watched the humans with growing hope. "If humans are back," one whispered, "then maybe we can win this war." The human ship was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of freedom. It showed the oppressed planets that they were not alone. Back on the Empire's largest ship, fear and confusion filled the command center. The generals argued about what to do next. Some wanted to fight back, but their weapons were broken. Others wanted to retreat, but the human ship was blocking their way. The Empire had never faced an enemy so powerful and mysterious. As the human warship continued to float in the middle of the frozen fleet, the galaxy watched and waited. The battle was no longer just about power. It was about hope, courage, and the return of humanity. Captain Rourke and his crew knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire would not surrender without a fight, but humans had already changed the game. The strange blue light from the human warship shone brightly in the dark space, a new star rising in a galaxy full of shadows. The Empire's frozen battle had ended, but the real war was about to begin. The Empire was shaken to its core. Their fleet, once so powerful and unstoppable, now lay frozen and helpless in space. The commanders could hardly believe what was happening. How could a single human warship stop thousands of their best ships? The very idea seemed impossible. But the proof was clear. The humans were back, and they were stronger than anyone had imagined. Inside the Empire's main command ship, the generals gathered in a dark room filled with flickering screens. Their faces were tense, and their voices were low but urgent. Some argued that this human warship was a trick of the mind or some kind of new weapon that had yet to be understood. Others whispered that humanity had found a way to use dark energy, a power so dangerous that even the Empire feared it. The truth was unknown, but fear spread quickly. The Empire's spies were sent to gather more information. Small stealth ships moved silently toward the human warship, trying to find a weakness or learn its secrets. But the human ship seemed to be protected by something invisible, a shield or force field that made it impossible to get close. Every time the spies approached, they were pushed back by strong energy waves. Meanwhile, rumors began to spread among the Empire's ranks. Stories told of humans long ago, fierce fighters who had survived impossible odds. They had once nearly destroyed themselves, but they learned from their mistakes. They became strong and clever, ready to fight for freedom and survival. Now, those old stories seemed real again. The fear inside the Empire grew. Commanders wondered what else the humans had. How many more warships were hiding in the darkness? What weapons could they use? The Empire had never faced an enemy like this before, one that could freeze their entire fleet and shut down their weapons with just a small ship. Inside the human warship, Captain Rourke studied the Empire's reactions. He knew the Empire feared humans for a reason. Earth's history was full of wars and survival against all odds. Humans had learned to use the galaxy's darkest forces, dark matter and dark energy, in ways no other race dared. That knowledge made them dangerous. But Captain Rourke also knew that this fight was about more than power. It was about freedom. The humans had returned not just to win a battle, but to end the Empire's cruel control over countless planets. The Empire had enslaved many worlds, taken resources without mercy, and crushed anyone who dared to resist. The humans believed it was time for change. As the frozen battle continued, the Empire tried new tactics. They sent messages demanding surrender. They threatened destruction. But the humans did not answer with words. They answered with action. The human warship released drones that moved quickly and silently, disabling the Empire's defenses on nearby planets. The drones spread hope and rebellion. On those planets, oppressed people began to rise up. They fought against the Empire's soldiers and freed themselves. The Empire's power was cracking. Their fear grew stronger. The frozen battle was no longer just in space. It was spreading across the galaxy. The Empire's generals were forced to admit one thing. The humans were back, and they were not the weak race they once believed. They had returned with new weapons, new ideas, and new hope. The frozen fleet was only the start of a much bigger war. The galaxy watched, waiting to see what would happen next. The Empire's power was challenged, and the humans were ready to fight. The frozen battle was a warning. The old rules were breaking, and a new age was beginning. The humans had returned to change everything. The humans on the warship Endurance were not here just to freeze the Empire's fleet. They wanted to end the Empire's cruel rule once and for all. Captain Rourke stood on the bridge, watching the frozen ships around them. His eyes were steady and full of determination. "We fight for freedom," he said, "not just for ourselves, but for all those the Empire has oppressed." The human crew worked quickly and with great skill. Small drones were released from the ship's hidden bays. These drones moved silently through space, flying toward the Empire's weapon systems on the frozen ships and on nearby planets under the Empire's control. When they reached their targets, the drones sent out pulses of energy that shut down the weapons and defense systems. The once powerful cannons and shields stopped working, leaving the Empire's forces vulnerable. Far below, on the planets the Empire ruled with an iron fist, the news of the human warship spread like wildfire. The oppressed people, who had long suffered under the Empire's harsh control, began to believe that change was possible. Secret meetings were held in hidden places. Rebels prepared for a fight. The humans were giving them hope and a chance. On one planet, a group of rebels gathered in a dark cave. They listened carefully as a small device showed the human ship floating in space. "The humans are back," one rebel whispered, "and they are fighting for us." The room filled with quiet excitement and new courage. For the first time in many years, the rebels believed they could win. The Empire's commanders grew more desperate. They tried to send messages to the human ship, warning them to leave. But the humans did not reply. Instead, they focused on their mission: to free the galaxy from the Empire's grip. The frozen battle in space was only the beginning. The humans knew the real fight would be on the ground, where the people lived and suffered. Captain Rourke spoke to his crew. "We will help the rebels," he said. "We will strike where the Empire is weakest. We will tear down their walls of fear and control." The crew nodded, ready to take on the dangerous missions ahead. Back on the frozen fleet, the Empire's fear grew. Their weapons were silent, their ships powerless. The rebellion on the planets was growing stronger by the day. The Empire knew they had lost control, but they refused to give up. They prepared for a massive counterattack. As the humans moved quietly through space, the galaxy watched with hope and fear. The Empire was powerful, but the humans had something more: courage, skill, and a will to fight for what was right. The frozen battle was no longer just a pause in a war. It was the start of a revolution. The humans were not just fighting for victory. They were fighting to change the galaxy forever, and the Empire would soon learn that freedom was a force even they could not stop. The Empire was desperate now. Their frozen fleet was powerless, their weapons silent, and their controls slipping away. The human warship Endurance had shocked the galaxy, and the rebels on many planets had started to rise up. The Empire could not afford to wait any longer. They decided to strike back with their deadliest weapon, one that could destroy entire star systems. In the deepest chamber of the Empire's command ship, the generals gathered around a massive table covered in star maps and battle plans. Their faces were grim. "We must use the Dreadnought," one general said. The Dreadnought was a massive warship, bigger and stronger than any other in the fleet. It carried weapons that could unleash firepower like a dying star. If the Empire could destroy the human warship with it, they could end the rebellion before it spread further. The Dreadnought moved quickly through space, its enormous guns glowing with deadly energy. The Empire's hope rested on this giant ship. The frozen fleet slowly began to thaw as the Dreadnought approached the human warship, ready to fire its devastating weapons. Captain Rourke and his crew saw the massive ship coming. They knew the battle ahead would be the hardest yet. The Endurance was smaller, but it had something the Dreadnought did not: speed, clever tactics, and the will to fight for freedom. The two ships faced each other in the silent void. Suddenly, the Dreadnought opened fire. Bright beams of energy shot toward the Endurance, lighting up the darkness like fireworks. The human warship moved fast, dodging the attacks with skill and precision. The crew worked quickly, firing back with their own weapons. The battle was fierce and deadly. Both sides suffered damage. The Dreadnought's huge guns could cause massive destruction, but the Endurance's advanced technology allowed it to stay one step ahead. The human crew used small fighter ships and drones to attack the Dreadnought's weak points. Explosions rocked the giant ship, but it kept coming. As the fight continued, the frozen Empire fleet watched, slowly coming back to life. The commanders hoped their Dreadnought would win the day. But the humans fought with a courage and skill that shocked everyone. In the middle of the battle, Captain Rourke gave a quiet order. "Prepare the secret weapon," he said. The crew looked at each other with hope. They knew this could turn the tide. The Empire's deadliest weapon was no match for the humans' will. The battle was not just about ships and guns. It was about freedom, courage, and the fight for a better future. The galaxy waited to see who would win this deadly clash. Part 6. ChatGPT said, "The secret weapon on the human warship Endurance was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hidden deep inside the ship, it was a device powered by dark matter, a mysterious and powerful energy that few understood. Captain Rourke knew that using it was risky. If it failed, the Endurance and its crew could be destroyed. But if it worked, it could end the battle and change the war forever." As the Dreadnought fired its massive guns, the Endurance moved closer, carefully avoiding the deadly blasts. The human crew worked quickly, preparing the dark matter device. Blue light pulsed inside the chamber as energy built up, humming with power. Captain Rourke stood firm on the bridge. "This is our chance," he said. "Fire the weapon." A bright beam shot out from the Endurance, faster than light and full of raw energy. It struck the dreadnought's hull, breaking through its strongest shields. The giant ship shuddered as explosions spread across its surface. The Empire's massive weapon was no match for the humans' secret power. The dreadnought fired back with all its strength, but the Endurance was already moving away, using its speed to escape the destruction. The battle was fierce, but the human warship had won this fight. Back on the frozen fleet, the Empire's ships slowly started to move again. They were no longer frozen, but their confidence was shaken. The power of the human warship was clear. They had weapons and courage the Empire had never seen. Captain Rourke spoke to his crew, proud but cautious. "This victory is only the beginning," he said. "We must keep fighting. For freedom, for the galaxy, and for all those who suffer under the Empire." The news of the dreadnought's destruction spread quickly. Rebels on many planets cheered, and hope grew stronger. The Empire was no longer untouchable. The humans had returned, and they were ready to fight for a new future. The frozen battle was over, but the war had just begun. The galaxy watched as humans showed that courage, strength, and hope could change even the darkest night. The destruction of the Empire's mighty dreadnought sent shockwaves across the galaxy. News spread quickly from one star system to another. The humans had struck a powerful blow, and the Empire was no longer invincible. Across countless worlds, hope blossomed among those who had long lived under fear and control. On the planets where rebels had once whispered in secret, voices now grew louder. People rose up openly, inspired by the courage of the human crew aboard the Endurance. Small victories turned into larger battles. The Empire's grip began to loosen, piece by piece. Captain Rourke stood on the bridge, watching the galaxy change before his eyes. The Endurance was no longer alone. More human ships, hidden for years, were now joining the fight. They brought new weapons, new ideas, and a fierce determination to free the galaxy from tyranny. The Empire was forced to retreat, its frozen fleet broken and scattered. But Captain Rourke knew the war was far from over. The Empire would return with new plans, new weapons, and even darker secrets. The humans had won a battle, but the fight for freedom would continue. Yet, the galaxy was different now. The frozen battle had awakened something powerful, a belief that no empire could last forever when people were ready to fight for their rights. The humans had shown that even the smallest ship could change the fate of stars. As the Endurance and its fleet moved forward, they carried a message to all who would listen. Freedom was worth fighting for. The Empire's cold rule was ending, and a new era of hope was beginning. The frozen battle was just the start of a story that would be told for generations. And somewhere in the stars, Captain Rourke smiled quietly. Humanity had returned, not to conquer, but to protect. The galaxy would never be the same again. Tools. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.